A dream holiday of a lifetime turns into a very expensive nightmare. Simon Calder steps in to challenge the airline responsible. On this week's Fast Track, $1,200, the cost for one family who made a simple spelling mistake online when booking a flight to Australia. We challenge the airline that charged them. And we're at the foothills of the Andes in Argentina, exploring one of the most important archaeological discoveries of recent times. Plus,
the website that claims to answer all your tricky travel questions and how this simple gesture of holding your ear could make you friends in Brazil. That's Online Check-In later in the show.
hello and welcome to Fast Track. I'm Fiona Foster. Now let's start today's programme with a story we can all relate to. You're planning the trip of a lifetime to Australia to see your daughter get married. Yes, it's the stuff that dreams are made of, but for one English couple it turned into a nightmare. That's because of a simple spelling slip-up that led to an argument between their airline and their booking agent, and left them in the end with a stark choice. Either pay up over $1,200 for a new ticket or don't fly to Melbourne for the wedding. Well, they contacted us and we thought it was a case worth investigating. And who better to do that than Fast Track's Simon Calder.
Travel and the internet, they're made for each other, with millions of travellers able to access billions of combinations of airline seats, hotel rooms and rental cars. In the 21st century, anyone with access to the World Wide Web and a payment card can put together their perfect trip with just a few keystrokes. But with this opportunity and the increasing pace of life comes a range of risks. Here at Fast Track, we're aware of many cases where passengers have booked flights for the wrong day or the wrong departure airport. And even if you get those right, you can get the name wrong by reversing the first and last names. A woman using her married name when her passport is in the maiden name, or a simple typing error. Until this year, though, we hadn't heard of such extreme consequences as one missing letter from a name that cost the customer $1,300. That's £825. Lynn Booty and her husband Christopher from Sussex were planning a dream trip to Australia.
Well, we had some really exciting news that our daughter out in Australia was about to get married. Unfortunately, she said it's within the next sort of 8 weeks, so sort of panic. I thought we need to book, always book through Expedia, got online, booked our flight with Emirates. Thought no more of it, got the itinerary back, then noticed a spelling mistake in my husband's name. The T was missing out of Christopher. The next morning we contacted Expedia, who said they couldn't do anything because Emirates wasn't operating that day. It was a Sunday. And so my daughter said, oh, well, I think I'll go into Emirates site because you can actually make amendments on the actual Emirates site. So she went onto their site and yes, you could. So we made the amendment.
So immediately they noticed the problem, they tried contacting both the agent Expedia and the airline Emirates to put it right.
Basically, this one spelling mistake with the letter T meant that I had to, the only way I was going to be able to get a flight for my husband with me was to rebook. I mean, the bottom line is I've been charged £825 for misspelling a name. Now, I could have left that and thought, oh, I'll risk it. But Emirates said, there's every chance your husband will not be allowed into Australia if the name on his ticket doesn't match the passport.
I think that we can't be the only people who make a mistake, and I believe that there ought to be something there to resolve mistakes like this that are corrected in a very short time.
You might imagine that once you've paid for an airline seat, it should be yours to do with as you wish. But the airlines are very sensitive about who's on board. One reason is commercial. In the past, when there was no ID check made against the name on the ticket, some travellers and travel agents would buy cheap seats months in advance and then sell them close to departure at a huge profit. And the threat of terrorism means that governments are very concerned about who is flying where.
It's absolutely vital that we get the name right, because we have to give the right name to the government authorities. We have to give them the right names to immigration, and in this case we have to give the right name for the Australian visa as well. If you've got a name that could be misconstrued, my own name could be Laurie, I'm actually christened Lawrence, or it could be spelled I spell it L-A-U, it could be spelled L-A-W. So if you're saying something over the phone, make sure you get it right. And if the airline or travel company concerned will allow you to use an initial for your first name, just use an initial, because there could be no confusion then.
It would have been far cheaper for Christopher legally to change his name to Christopher, get a new passport in that name to match the booking, and then after the trip to revert to his real identity. Sounds absurd? Well, we thought so. Fortunately, after Fast Track got involved, Emirates decided to give the couple a full refund. Oh, hello, is that Lynn? It's Simon here.
Oh, hi Simon, I'm just getting on the train actually.
Oh, how exciting.
Go ahead.
I've been speaking to Expedia and to Emirates, and Emirates tells me that they, when I said it seemed a little unfair that you should pay for the same seat twice, they said they'd agree and they would refund you in full for the money that you spent on the second ticket.
Oh right, that's fantastic. I'm just so grateful, and so, you know, it's restored my faith actually.
This was an unfortunate case in Lynn Booty's case, because what happened there is unfortunately called the wrong phone number, and we're taking that up locally with Expedia, who are the booking agents, to make sure in future they get it right.
The couple will now be able to afford a proper wedding present for their daughter. But why did they have to go through such stress? In my experience of such cases, when there's an agent involved as well as an airline, they will often blame one another. Expedia told us,
our agent double-checked with the airline and was advised by our airline contact that a remark would be placed on the booking to amend the name, but that travel could not be guaranteed other than by cancelling and rebooking. So we're very pleased that Emirates has now been able to resolve this with the customer.
what do other airlines do when things go wrong? Qantas of Australia and British Airways both have a cooling off period in which any mistakes are put right free of charge. American Airlines says legitimate changes to a passenger's name will be accommodated, and Virgin Atlantic will correct mistakes for a flat $50 fee up to 2 hours before departure. Back in West Sussex, Lynn and husband Christopher are going ahead on their 10,000-mile trip to Melbourne for what we all hope will be one of the happiest days of their lives, to see their daughter Victoria get married.
Simon Calder reporting on a holiday nightmare that began before the plane even took off. Now, happily, Lynn got her full refund, but have you ever been in a similar situation and not been so lucky? We'd love to hear your story. Do email us at fasttrack@bbc.com. And that's the address some of you used following our recent story about Beirut, a thriving tourist destination back in the 1970s, but now struggling because of its proximity to Syria.
Because we have the Hezbollah in Lebanon, and it's a Lebanese party in Lebanon, the media are reporting that this is a terrorist party in Lebanon, and when you speak about terrorism and tourism, it doesn't fit together.
Mike London has been looking through your comments.
Dara Lenihan from Singapore emailed the programme to say he was in Beirut a couple of months ago and wasn't worried at all about safety.
I visited Beirut last Christmas and New Year. The people are the nicest people you will ever meet. We even travelled to the Syrian border. Beirut is a party town and is extremely safe. It's a must-see city.
Isabel Hamza, on the other hand, was more worried that the film failed to point out the positive aspects of Beirut.
I've just watched your travel programme and oh dear, you have portrayed Beirut as a dump, which is upsetting and only partially true. Lebanon is suffering with the Syrian civil war on its borders, but it has so much to offer and is a fascinating and amazingly interesting place to be. It's not fair to portray only the dark side of a country, as all countries have that. I would imagine you will have put tourists off forever.
And Tom Young, an Englishman who lives in the city, felt the same.
I was disappointed that all you reported about Lebanon was the predictable stereotypes of an unstable government, the Syrian conflict and the Palestinian refugee camps. Personally, I love living here. Why not look on the bright side for a change?
And thanks again for all your emails. Do keep sending them in. We do read every one, I promise. Now let's have a look at what's making news in the travel world this week.
American tourists visiting the ruins of Machu Picchu in Peru are being warned to be vigilant after reports that a criminal organisation may be planning to kidnap US citizens. If you've got a trip planned, the advice is to sign up to the American Embassy's Smart Travel Programme for updates on the latest security information. Taking a guided tour as an introduction to a ski resort could become trickier for travellers to France. A French court has banned thousands of ski guides from showing visitors round the slopes, claiming unqualified guides could compromise skiers' safety. A British ski company is appealing against the ruling. It says the decision was made to protect French jobs. And finally, Vienna's Leopold Museum was visited by naturalists and nudists this week. They attended an after-hours opening of the controversial exhibition Naked Men. The artworks show the development of male nudity in art history. The adverts for the exhibition caused outrage and had to be covered up. And if you want to see the exhibition, it's on until the 4th of March. But don't worry, you can keep your clothes on.
We're taking a short break now, but when we return, we're in Argentina, exploring the country's oldest pre-Inca town in the Andes. And Carmen's here with her regular online check-in with details of the world's most popular frequent flyer community website. So don't go away.
Hello, you're watching Online Check-In, the fast-track guide to what's hip and happening in travel on the web and on your handset. I'm Carmen Roberts. Are you looking for a bit of travel advice, like a flat to rent in Paris, for example, or a good guerrilla trekking company in Rwanda? It's times like this that a good old Google search is too all-encompassing. So why not try out the wisdom from the locals and experts on Traveller.com? It's a question and answer service that works in real time, hooking you up with like-minded locals and past visitors who are in the know. Questions are sent out to Twitter and Facebook, and answers are geotagged too. Of course, the quality of answers will vary, but it will at least give you a good starting point. That is, unless you're going to an obscure destination, then the experts and locals could be a little thin on the ground. Well, one question I'd be keen to get answered is how to make the most of my air miles and book that elusive rewards seat. In this instance, I'd check out the points guy. He's got tips for amassing points as well as keeping track and, of course, spending points. From what I gather, the main thrust of the advice is to use travel-related credit cards, apply and make the most of the perks immediately, and then cancel the cards before you incur any fees. It might be great for your air miles, but I'm not sure what this will do for your credit rating. Oh, and surprise, surprise, the website is packed with advertising from those very same credit card companies. But hey, if it means a free flight. Flyer Talk is another oldie but a goodie. It's possibly the world's most popular frequent flyer community website. There's lots of tips on how to maximize your miles, hotel points and more. But I find it overwhelming and cumbersome to have to wade through lots of forum discussions, getting into the nitty-gritty of miles and rewards points. But I guess that's why I don't get very many free flights or hotel nights. What I am seeing though is more and more websites trying to offer luxury for less. The Lux Nomad is a new startup with a slew of design and luxury hotels and resorts, mainly in the Asia-Pacific region, claiming to offer up to 70% off. You have to sign up to a weekly newsletter to be in the game, and if you refer a friend who makes a booking, then you'll get credit towards your next stay. There are lots of other invitation-only sites like this popping up. I mentioned Impulse Flyers some months ago, and JetSetter.com is yet another. But JetSetter claims to go that little bit further. It's also got a raft of private homes on its books, from city apartments to chateaus and ski lodges. There's also a travel planning service to give you insider recommendations and help with your itinerary. Again, membership is free, but you have to sign up to a weekly newsletter, which will only clog up your inbox if you have no intention to travel. If you've seen an invaluable app or a useful website, drop me a line. The address is fasttrack@bbc.com. Or forgo the email and write on our wall on Facebook. Or else you can tweet us too at BBC Fast Track. Now, in my opinion, if you want to get a feel for a city, ask someone who's lived there. Expat Blogs is a great resource for travellers' tips, with over 300 expat blogs listed by destination. Because often, the best travel guides are expatriates who have lived in a destination long enough to know it well, but still have an outsider's perspective. Tweet of the Week time now, and the peeps at Skyscanner have been getting creative with this little video, teaching you rude and interesting gestures from around the world. And here I was thinking that my Brazilian friend was hard of hearing. And finally, let me leave you with a brilliant little video. From Chicago to LA in 3 minutes. Yes, it's a time-lapse drive along America's legendary Route 66. Enjoy, see you next time.
Now, every year, hundreds of thousands of tourists flock to the ruins of the ancient Incan city of Machu Picchu in Peru. But it's not widely known that the Incan Empire spread across a vast swathe of South America, including large parts of modern-day Argentina. In 1999, archaeologists made an amazing discovery, unearthing the bodies of 3 mummified children at the top of a volcano in the Andes. Because 140 artifacts were found alongside them, it's now believed that they were victims of human sacrifice. Rafael Estefania reports from the museum at Salta, where these chilling and fascinating remains are now on display.
Beautiful and eerie, the landscape of the Salta region in the north of Argentina is one rich in history. 14 years ago, archaeologists discovered 3 mummified Inca children sacrificed to the gods more than 5 centuries ago. The mummies were found on top of a 6,000 meters high volcano. Today, the children of Llullallaco are considered to be some of the best preserved mummies in the world, and they are on exhibition in the Museum of High Altitude Archaeology in the center of Salta City. The museum is also a lab where modern forensic techniques are used to try to understand what actually happened to these children 500 years ago.
We know that violence was not used in the sacrificial ritual. The children died because of the effects of the altitude and the temperatures. They were given a strong alcoholic drink called chicha so they would fall asleep and die peacefully.
The museum is aiming to provide an intimate and reverential space to see the children and understand the meaning of their deaths.
El turista no viene y abona una entrada para ver cuerpos, sino para ver una.
Tourists don't come here to see bodies. They come to see a culture. So they enter the museum in a very respectful way, understanding that these children had a very significant role in the sacrificial ritual of the Capacocha.
I was granted rare access to the lab and shown some previously unseen funeral objects buried with the children.
Here we have something very special. These are shoe covers made of textiles for walking in the mountains. There are no previous findings of this kind of object in the Inca culture, so it is a very important item.
The Incas considered the Capacocha or sacrificial ritual as the ultimate honor. The victims were believed to be joining the gods.
¿De dónde provenían los tres niños, la doncella, la niña del rayo y el niño? We don't really know where these kids were coming from. The colorful plumage indicates that some of them may have come from the Amazon jungle and others from Peru. We are opening a new line of investigation to find out the ethnic origins of the kids and the reasons behind their death.
In the museum, a song in Quechua brings back the ancient language of the Incas, still spoken today by millions in the Andean region. The language may survive, but through the use of forensics, scientists here at the museum hope to find out more about these children left on a mountainside to die over 500 years ago, and the lost civilization they came from.
Rafael Estefania in the Archaeological Museum of Salta. Well, that's it for this week, but next week we're in Bali as the country chooses areas of unspoilt beauty for possible redevelopment, something which hasn't gone down well with locals or conservationists. And ever fancied hiring a butler, or indeed becoming one? We'll be in London to get a few lessons. In the meantime though, do stay in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter and Pinterest, and why not check out some of our trips and stories from around the world. Until next time though, from me, Fiona Foster, and the rest of the Fast Track team, wherever you're heading next, have a great time. Bye bye.